Anybody lose any glasses? There were like right here, like last week. Nobody?
Can't see them.
Want them?
No.
Okay, Oklahoma State, be another fun one, another Big 12 fun one. Always like traveling to Stillwater. It's as good of a college environment and facility that exists in college football. It's, obviously, have been there. This will be the fourth time that I've been there at West Virginia, but I've been going there since 2000 as well, and saw the transformation take place over the course of 18 years. And it's a spectacular place and a lot of fun to go play there. So we'll be fired up to go. Hopefully, we played like we did 4 years ago when Drayvon was our MVP in the game against Oklahoma State 4 years ago. He's obviously the only one that is still here from that team, but we won there before, and it's a good environment, good place to play. Really looking forward to the trip to Oklahoma. Coach Gundy's doing another good job. Obviously the ball isn't bouncing their way like it has in recent years, but this is another team, like I said last week, they're used to winning 10 games a year. They put $500 million in their facilities. They recruit at a high level. They have really, 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 really good football players. So we'll be just as hard of a task as we've had all year. And we're prepared for this, and we'll go in there with the right mindset that and if you're not, you're going to get beat each and every week. But we'll be ready to go. These guys have gotten after us the last 3 years, and we'll be motivated as coaches and players to go play this game. Offensively,
it was very realistic, and it's really, whose fault it is? It's Matt Hardy's fault.
Is that like a podcast?
I hit the wrong button. That's exactly what it was.
During the press conference?
Not trying to. Just trying to turn it off. Sorry.
Okay. Offensively, they're at this point in the season playing. It looks just like it's looked for the last few years for them. Their quarterback Cornelius is getting better every week. He's been there forever, so he's been in that quarterback room for the last 5 years. And knows what they want, knows what Coach Gundy wants, knows what Coach Urich wants. And he just needed playing experience, which now, going into the 11th game of the year, he's got plenty of playing experience. And his production is extremely good, and their offense is extremely good. Getting better up front, playing a lot better together up front. Their run game's coming along. Anytime you got Justice Hill back there, it's going to scare you to death. And then the Hubbard kid is coming on and running the ball as good as anybody as well. So got to do a great job against the run. They will try to run it a good bit. And then in the pass game, they've always got receivers that can make plays. You lose a Blitnikoff winner, and then you got another Blitnikoff finalist, and the Wallace kid who's been playing really good. Johnson, the other receiver, is 5-star kid out of Louisiana. And then they do a good job with their fullbacks and tight ends and get multiple with what they do. So will be our biggest test yet. And obviously ending the year with these guys and the opponent we got next week. We've knew this was coming. And we'll be ready to roll when it comes to that. But they're as good offensively, averaging over 40 points a game, and just a ton of yards, and play with a lot of tempo. Got our biggest test defensively yet this year. Defensively, new coordinator, Coach Knowles comes over from Duke. They're doing some different things. They lead the nation in tackles for loss and sacks and all that stuff. They cause a lot of chaos with their fronts. They've got great defensive linemen. I think their linebackers are outstanding. The Phillips kid was their MVP last year. And then Bundage has been banged up a little bit with an ankle, but is as good of an athlete as you're going to see. 6'2", 220, runs good. They put him at D end and they rush him. Along with the Brailford guy, who's another long, lean guy that can run and come off the edge. And they evidently feel good enough about him to move him to play a bunch of different positions. They line him up at Mike a lot, change their fronts. Don't know where he's going to line up. It's going to be a big game for Will to identify fronts and Matt Jones to identify fronts to figure out where these guys are and where they're coming from. You know, we need to do a good job with running the ball, but then when it comes to the pass game, you got to ID where these guys are at, and that's not the easiest thing to do. So, you know, we got to ID it. We got to give Will some time to be able to throw it. Their corners, same two that they had last year. I think this is the best corner duo that we've seen all year. You know, same two guys that they had last year. They're long. They've got great experience, and they can run. So it's a weird defense because they look really good and they got great bodies. You know, you look at the numbers. They're giving up some plays and they're giving up some points. It's what everybody thinks about when it's Big 12 football. So we got to score points, you know, and we got to be able to go out there and ID what they're doing and then finish drives the appropriate way. We've been doing a pretty good job of that here in the last month. That's going to have to continue. Special teams, they pay a lot of attention to it. They got, you know, an experienced kicker and the Amendola guy, you know, got a great leg. One of the games been around there, Pennsylvania kid, oddly enough, but runs, does a good job getting out there and kicking the thing through the uprights. Their kicker, young kid, the kickoff guy is different than the kicker. He puts about 80% of them into the end zone, got a strong leg for a freshman. They've used a couple of different punters, you know, doing a bunch of different things on special teams that causes problems schematically. You know, and then the return game's always been good. So, you know, Hubbard's back there as a kick returner, dangerous guy. They play solid in the punt return game as well. So, you know, they pay attention to that aspect of it, and we need to be solid when it comes to that. So, a big game, big 12 game. You know, it doesn't get any better than this. So we need to have a good week of practice and get out there, travel the right way, and be ready for a hostile environment and handle it the way we know how we can. If we're going to want to continue to win, to remain in the conversation, this is a huge hurdle. So we'll take some questions.
Dana, they obviously lead the league in sacks by a wide margin. So is it scheme or personnel? How do they get there?
That's both. It's both. They I don't know how else to explain it. They create chaos with how they line up, and then they have the athletic, freakish bodies that can come off the ball and defeat blocks and get to the quarterback. You know, so you know, Bundage and 94, Brailford, those guys, they're long and they're athletic and they're explosive and they're fast and they do a good job of coming off the ball and coming upfield. And then they mix fronts, you know, and you don't know what they're going to be in, you know, which has caused people a lot of problems when I talk about IDing it. Who needs to block who? We need to be on point, you know, to make sure we get it ID'd the right way, and then we got to hold up with what they're doing. I think their coverage plays a role in it too. Their corners are good, you know. You know, they got a couple of young safeties that are continuously getting better, but their coverage has been good. They play a lot of man coverage, and they're solid in their zone coverage, and you got to have somebody to throw to, or people are going to get there eventually. You know, so they do a nice job.
And your year at Oklahoma State, what did that mean to your development as a coach and to your advancement into this job?
Can't remember, it's too long ago.
Probably is.
Too long ago. God dang, guys, I've been here 8 years now, right? You know, it's 9 years, my 1 year in Stillwater was 9 years ago in a hotel room. So, I don't remember a lot about it. I worked hard there, you know. Met a lot of good people, a lot of good football people in Oklahoma. But just worked hard, you know, and you've been asked that question a bunch, probably every year I was, you know, since we've been playing them. You know, Coach Gundy does a great job of CEO in the program. just running the program and getting his hands and everything, and monitoring everything. I mean, that's one thing that I've there's a lot of there's a lot of things that from a program perspective of how he did things and how he ran things that we took and implemented here. So we'll leave it at that.
They played really good and then other times not so good. Is there a common thread you can see between when they play good and when they play not so good?
Yeah, I can't figure it out. I mean, they beat Texas. They Boise's a good football team, and they beat them by over three touchdowns. They beat Texas. They were a completion away from beating Oklahoma. Those are all really good teams. And then they struggle against some other teams. The only thing I can pinpoint is it's continuity, or it's they had a couple of staff changes, or lost some key seniors, or I don't know. I'm not in the walls. I don't know. It's college football. I mean, there's parity in college football. All these teams are good. I mean, we beat Baylor like that, and then they go to Waco and face a pretty motivated Baylor team. Kansas State loses at Baylor and goes back home, and then they go play a real motivated Kansas State team. We're talking about programs that have won a lot of games. Texas Tech was playing pretty good when they went to Stillwater and got after them pretty good. It's just it's parity in college football, and you better have your stuff together every week, or you're going to get beat. Iowa State came in, and was coming off a couple of tough losses, made a quarterback change, and got hot. It's college football. Better be ready to go. We want to look past this group. I can assure you, I don't care what the record is.
Dana, a few weeks ago, blocking and tackling was one of your big criticisms of the team. Now that you guys have been on this little run, where are you at with that? What's your assessment?
Yeah, good. It's all about the proper mindset. I thought we've had the proper mindset each of the last 3 times that we've lined up. So I talk a lot about that going to Stillwater. We better be in the right frame of mind. It's going to be a tough game. You better expect it, and we better focus hard on what our assignment is, what our technique is, and when it gets right down to it, we got to continue to block better, which I thought we blocked really good last week. I thought we tackled well last week. But there's a lot that goes into that, and having the proper mindset is probably the number one thing.
You held the team to negative rushing yardage, plugging in your number 3 Mike linebacker. Just how much has that group's success had to do with depth, and how much does David Long, you think, play a factor in that linebacker?
Yeah, I think David leads the charge clearly. And I don't know how we're not looking at him being national players of the week on a lot of different things. I don't think he's been Big 12 player of the week this year. How can that guy not be Big 12 player of the week? So if that sounds like I'm kind of calling out the Big 12, then yeah, I'm calling out the Big 12. How can he not be player of the week? We're 10 games into this thing, and he does the same thing every week. You look up and he's got 10, 12 tackles and 5 tackles for loss and a sack, or 2 or 3 like it was last week. I mean, he makes every play. He affects every play. I guarantee you the offense knows where he is every single play. And so, he's a big part of it. I think Gibby's doing a great job of scheming things up. If we can stop the run effectively, and we got a huge task this week, they will try to run the ball, and they got good backs. TCU tried to run the ball, and they got good backs. So scheme things up and make plays, and David's disruptive. Giovanni Stewart's doing a good job of being disruptive. You lose Dylan Tonkery and Shea Campbell goes in and plays well. You lose Shea due to a stinger, he'll be fine. And Zach Sandwich goes in there and plays fine. I think that's good coaching and developing players and having the proper depth to be able to win football games.
I guess just more on David Long, like a Buckus Award semifinalist. Why is he just able to be so disruptive and be on pretty much every play, whether it's pass breakups like we saw last week, these TFLs and all these different tackles?
Yeah, good player. I mean, he works hard at it. He's smart. He's got experience. He's physical. He's tough. He's really hard to block. I made that comment to everybody when he was on the scout team 4 years ago. It's hard to block. His pad level's unreal. He runs underneath blocks or around blocks or through blocks or gets off blocks. I mean, he's in my opinion the best linebacker in the country. And people need to take notice of it. Just put the video on. I guarantee you everybody we play would say the same thing. So he's playing at a very high level, and he's very motivated. He's our defensive leader and one of our team leaders and captains. And, people need to take notice of it because he's playing pretty good. Against Oklahoma State last year, I guarantee you they're going to know who he is. He had like 18 tackles and 6 tackles for loss against these guys last year. He does it every week. I don't know what he's got to do to get some recognition from our conference.
How does a guy elevate himself from scout team to this level?
Who?
How does a guy elevate himself from scout team to this level like David has?
Well, usually everybody does. You don't have just a ton of guys come in and not play scout team unless you're a transfer and we're plugging polls based on recruiting transfers. But I mean, it's everybody needs to do that. Your look squads are so important. You know, we got a lot of guys that are making plays on special teams that are on scout teams. So you got to be able to put scout teams out there. I mean, and a lot of times they're going to be scholarship guys. It's not a small number of misfits that are walk-ons that can go out there and give you a good look. You got to have good football players give you good looks to be able to prepare the right way to go play on Saturday. You know, so if you're not in the too deep, you're probably going to be on the look squads.
You guys kind of perfected that touch pass, push pass thing to Tavon back in the day, and now you're seeing it all over the place in the NFL. Where did that start with you, and what do you think about seeing the pros doing it as often as they are now?
Yeah, you know, Bob Stitt, he's at, I hate to say this now because he's at Oklahoma State as an offensive analyst, but that's a whole other story. But he was at Colorado School of the Mines, and good friend, won back clinics, came to Houston, you know, I was catching it and handing it. He's like, you're doing it wrong, you got to toss it. So we did. And so he worked with Case on it, and we did it, you know. Cliff was with me at the time at Houston, and we did it at Houston all the time. Went to Oklahoma State they were number 3 in the country, and we were at Houston. We had Case, and we had Tyron Carrier, who's my receiver coach. And we tossed it to him several times around the edge and made some good plays and handed the ball off and upset number 3 Oklahoma State that day. You know, obviously went to Oklahoma State, did it there, came here, did it with Tavon. That made big news in the Orange Bowl, but we've been doing it for 4 or 5 years prior to that. And it's everybody's doing it. It's a part of it's a part of offensive football now. It's a copycat sport.